Tactics Ogre Reborn, video number 1. N-A-W-A-N-A-N tact. Okay. Start. May. Sakamoto bias. Sakamoto bias on the soundtrack for Tactics Ogre Reborn. This sounds like a slight rearrangement of the music that appeared on the Red Book version of the Saturn game? I believe it was I believe this game got remade on the PlayStation as well. In fact, this music sounds like the Ogre Battle theme song that was used in the Red Book version of that game. That was using the Red Book soundtrack for that Saturn game, which I believe I used to own. Don't ask me why I didn't keep it. I sold a lot of games I probably shouldn't have sold. But yeah, this sounds like the theme song to Dragon, to Ogre Battle. The voice is at 100. Yeah, I don't... Okay, fine. Japanese voice acting because, duh. I guess we'll play the voices. We'll see how it goes. Message speed is instant because we're not scared. Okay, this is actually a game... How do I say this? This is a remake of the Super Famicom game, which got remade onto the PlayStation. And, yeah, it got remade onto a PlayStation, which is how I played it originally. It was supposed to be a sequel to a Super NES game called Ogre Battle, which itself was sort of a... It was a turn-based strategy game, but it had sort of a real-time overworld where you're moving pieces on a map, but the enemy was moving toward... You were kind of moving a cursor on a map towards a destination, and you told your soldiers to, like, move in that direction. So it's kind of like Warcraft 1, 2, or 3 in that sense. It was a real-time strategy overworld. Once you got into a fight, there were automatic battles that you really couldn't control. It was turn-based in a way, but it was mainly about developing your team so that when they got into a battle, they were more likely to win because they were totally automated. So the idea was finding a team that was strong enough to survive a battle with somebody else. I would not call it a turn-based game, really. I guess it was more of a real-time strategy game, but it was pausable real-time, but we're not going to talk about that too much. We'll get to that later. This is it's not one of the uber turn-based strategy games, but it's one of the more notable ones.
海洋貿易で栄えたこの島では覇権をめぐり民族間での紛争が絶えなかった。その戦いに終止符を打った男がいた。後に覇王と呼ばれたドルガルアである。この地を統一したドルガルアは多民族間の婚姻を奨励し、国境を一つとすることで対立を取り除こうとした。 その統治は半世紀にわたりバレリアは栄えた。しかし紛争の火種が消えたわけではなかった。王の死後、司教ブランタは支配者階級のバクラム人を扇動し、王とハイムの独立を宣言。さらに北の大国ローディスと密約を結び、バクラム・バレリア国を建国した。摂政となったブランタは全土を手に入れるため侵攻を開始。しかしローディスから派遣されたランスロット・タルタロスは戦力の損失を恐れ、それを拒否。ブランタはしぶしぶそれを受け入れ、侵攻を停止した。島の南半分に残された2つの民族主義陣営。人口の7割を占めるガルガスタンは指導者バルバトス枢機卿のもと、その覇権を手にするためウォルスタに宣戦を布告。民族の根絶を目的とした虐殺を展開した。一方ウォルスタはロンウェイ公爵を指導者として抗戦。だが戦力の差によりわずか半年で敗北した。勝利した枢機卿は内乱の終結を宣言したが、ウォルスタ人に対する弾圧はなおも執拗に続いた。ウォルスタ人は抵抗を続けたが、公爵が囚われて以来急速に弱体化。残されたウォルスタ人はガルガスタンの用意した強制収容地区に収容された。こうしてバレリアの内乱は沈静化した。しかしそれが束の間の静寂であることを知らぬ者はいなかった。
Did you get all that? I didn't. Again, as I mentioned before, this is a sequel to Ogre Battle. Came out in the Super Famicom originally, was not localized in the United States. It got a remaster on the PlayStation 1, which was localized in the United States. And I want to say it had bits and pieces of a Red Book soundtrack at the time. Which means you could put the CD, it means you can put the game CD in a CD player and it will play like 4 or 5 tracks from the game. But I want to say most of the music was actually, there he is, Sakamoto Hitoshi. Masahiro Iwata was his co-composer. Both of them worked on Final Fantasy Tactics, still one of the greatest video game soundtracks of all time. This music has its moments, but I don't think it's as well respected. But I'm very curious to know if people are going to go back and revisit this game's original soundtrack, because those Super Famicom soundtracks weren't very well. No one really talked about them very much. There were lots of Uematsu fans back in the day. Yasuomi? Nobuo Uematsu. The guy who did Final Fantasy 1, 4, and 6. Everyone knows him. This guy, Sakamoto, was not as well known back then, but of course, he and Iwata, after Final Fantasy Tactics came out, blew up. And of course, by the time Final Fantasy 12 came around, he was one of the uber video game composers. And of course, he's one of my favorites. But I never really went back, and by the way, people from the Genesis era know he's one of the greats. But I completely disregarded him until Final Fantasy Tactics came out. I had no idea who he was until Final Fantasy Tactics came out. So I need to go back and listen to more of his 16-bit soundtracks. But I can tell you right off the bat that he did some of the best Genesis music of all time. You shouldn't need me to say that. It might be pretty obvious to most people. But you're talking about a dude who's been producing great music since the late 1980s. So that's how far back he's been cranking them. This game, I want to say there was no voice acting when the PlayStation 1 version came out. In fact, when it came out, it was so bare bones that a lot of people were complaining that it was basically a Super NES game with very little very few presentational improvements by the time the PlayStation came out. And I think the game came out in like 1997 or 1998 on the PlayStation. And in America, there was this sense that the game was flavorless. But the game had a very... Ooh, Stephanie Shea. I know she did some voice acting in some anime. I'll double check the name, because I did recognize that name. But, who was it? I remember... This game got a lot of play among some hardcore Japanese RPG fans because of all the depth that was in the game's combat, but it also kind of got a reputation for being somewhat overrated because there's a soldier in the game. You can use archers in the game to basically whittle away enemies before they get too close to you to do any damage. So also, the question is, has this game been rebalanced? So that the archers aren't as overpowering as they were in the original version of the game. This game did get re-released on the PlayStation Portable. I do own that copy. I just haven't bothered to pull it out. That game apparently streamlined a lot of the early combat, which was kind of bare bones because it was mainly tutorial. So what the game did on the PlayStation Portable version is that it automated or pre-scripted a lot of the side characters and made them into like Final Fantasy. They treated it more like Final Fantasy, where the side characters were sort of on automatic pilot to help guide you through the early part of the game. So you didn't have to do as much combat. You'd have to shuffle so many pieces around. Now I'm gonna shut up so you can hear the music, because this song comes from the comes from Ogre Battle on the Super Famicom. It also comes from it also was available in reg book format on the PlayStation 1. And I believe it was also in Tactics Ogre on the PlayStation 1. But this is one of Sakamoto's best songs. And it sounds great on the Nintendo 64. Ogre Battle 64 came out, and this song sounds amazing on the Nintendo 64. So do yourself a favor and pick that one up when you get a chance. We're going to say I was born on January 1st. Day 1 of God scale. Let's pretend it matters. I don't know what kind of anime this is. Wait, what? Okay, in a fit of passion, you take your friend's lover. They mean like you bed your friend's lover? Or you took their girl. Like, I don't know what they're talking about. Oh, they probably mean like, okay, we're in like a moment. I don't know what they were expecting me to say. Well, it's supposed to determine your statistics of some kind. Let's just say we're going to savor the moment. Don't mess with my man. I'm gonna be the one to break it to you. You stand poised, take the life of another. Why do you attempt this? In my honor. We'll just say we're gonna protect ourselves. Protect your neck. That's what we'll tell the judge. The man who slew your family stays chained before you. What punishment do you mete out? Imprisonment. Put the man in chains. Okay, what are we doing here? Banishment, it could be the same. Well, banishment from where exactly? The many evils men do, which one's the most damning? They're gonna make me choose. Let's go with sacrifice. Because it's arguably the most fatal. So we'll stick with that excuse. All men hold darkness in my heart. What darkness? Yeah, the shadow knows. What are we talking about here? What darkness? Vengeance. So basically, I have to be vengeful. So I can be Batman. I can be Batman. I can be... Who would this represent? Because I know this represents Batman, obviously. I'm Batman. Well, I'm not Batman. Vengeance for a lost Lord Magneto. I don't know. Vengeance for my biological family, whatever. No, vengeance from my logical family, right? Is that what we're going with? Yeah, your biologicals, your logicals, or your country. That's basically what you're asking for. Okay. I can choose Chitara. Well, it's like Lamp Valkyrie in a way. That could just be my bias. The Goddess of Fire. So we can go with Phoenix. We can go with Frosta. We can go with Chitara. We can go with Terra from Teen Titans. We can go with... who's the Goddess of Lightning? I'll go with Storm. Or we can go with... Goddess of Water. Not Aquaman. I know who's the water... Yeah, we can go with... who's the chick from Konosuba? Yeah, the chick from Konosuba. Aqua. Yeah, Aqua from Konosuba. Okay, so I don't know... What difference would it make, anyway? Like, who's the healer? I have no idea. Okay, we'll go with, Chitara. I don't know. Just pick a goddess, any goddess. Pick what's her name for Oh My Goddess, the anime. I don't remember her name. The blonde chick with the gem in her forehead. The stage is set. The green flag drops. Sorry, wrong 16-bit game. It's an isometric turn-based strategy game, in case you're wondering. Funny how there were only 3 games in the Ogre Battle saga, right? Ogre Battle, this game, and Ogre Battle 64, Knights of Lordly Caliber, I believe it was called. Yeah, Cling Together was the PlayStation Portable title, right? Yeah, I remember this part. Yeah, this part was in the. This part was definitely in the PlayStation 1 version. But again, they didn't spend a whole bunch of money like reanimating this stuff, which was one of the problems people had with the PlayStation 1 version. If they wanted like Final Fantasy 7 level graphics, which obviously weren't gonna hold up. But whatever. I mean, if you're willing to spend the money, you can make it look like, you know, Dragon's Lair or Time and Eternity, but they weren't going to do that. Maybe make it look like Lunar. I don't know. But yeah, they kept it. They kept it pretty. This is a pretty conservative game as far as like visuals are concerned. But again, what kind of budget did they have for making a game like this? It probably wasn't going to sell that many copies. These days, you get games like Fire Emblem. In fact, I'm curious how Fire Emblem fans would feel about a game like this. Because Fire Emblem was one of those games that never got localized in the United States when it originally came out because it was considered too difficult. And it might have been considered too Japanese. But then this game comes out. This game never got localized to the PlayStation 1 era. And obviously that game got a bit more play in the PlayStation 1 era because that was an era when Americans were more willing to deal with Japanese RPGs. Sorry. Vice. Vice. I'm thinking of somebody else. Never mind. There's no autoplay, huh? Is it time, Nezuko? We're not gonna skip. Yeah, I thought there was an instant, so there's no auto play, is there? Fine, I'll listen to the freaking story. Chance.
だってたった3人であの暗黒騎士団と戦うだなんて無茶もいいところよ。
大丈夫だよ、姉さん。奴らだって油断してるさ。
Speaking of Batman, it's foolish to think the three of us can defeat the Dark Knights.
おじけづいたって言うんじゃないだろうな。 俺は一人でもやるぞ。やめろよバイス、言い過ぎだ。行こう姉さん。
But I do like the idea of turning these old school, like, text-based Japanese RPGs into, like, radio dramas, at least. That other people could animate, I suppose. Or at least do storyboards, or they can do manga out of them. That would be fun. Yeah, like, I would commission an artist to make a manga of this. That might be cool. If I had the money. Y'all better hit me on Patreon if you want that.
ランスロットは暗黒騎士団の総長だ。そして奴らはバクラムの力の源。ランスロットを暗殺するってことはバクラムの力を一時的にでも弱めることになるんだ。そうすりゃバレリア全土を征服したがっているガルガスタンが動き出すに違いない。
落ち着いたばかりなのにまた戦争を起こそうっていうのね、あなたは。
この状況のどこが落ち着いたって言うんだ、カチュア。
カチュア。That's how you pronounce it?
俺たちウォルスタ人はまるで虫けらのように扱われているじゃないか。そうさ、奴らは俺たちに死ねと命じてるんだ。
The dialogue in this game always did go kind of hard, I think.
だからって戦争なんか始めたって私たちは負けるだけ。死ぬのがオチよ。
I do like the I don't think those character profiles were in the I don't think they were in the PlayStation 1 version. So I guess that kind of helps the visual package.
挟み撃ちにするぞ。デニムは後ろへ回ってくれ。
But the Super NES version did not have any of those character profiles. That would just be a waste of space because you only had so little. These cartridges were huge, but you didn't have that much space on them. So you pretty much would have had to like just do text boxes and sprite gesturing like in Final Fantasy 4 and 6. No character The character profiles were one of the things that got added to a lot of RPGs in the PlayStation 1 era. Final Fantasy 7 didn't do it, but a lot of the later Squaresoft Japanese RPGs started adding character profiles. Like Legend of Mana did it, I know that. Chrono Cross did a bit of that, so it was designed to if you weren't going to add a lot of sprite art to the characters, to their animation, you could at least add like a character profile next to their dialogue. They started adding that in the late 90s to video games. Sorry, I'm rambling. Oh yeah, the Falcon, the Hawk guy. What's his name from Barbarella? US for the lower recovery, okay. You can press X to interrupt, allowing you to examine units to perform similar tasks, okay. The Warren Report. Yeah, the Warren Report. I know it's supposed to be a JFK reference, but I think it was originally in the Japanese version. When they localized it, they kept that. But I don't think the Japanese intended it as a JFK reference. Because Warren's the name of the country we're in, right? Something like that. Okay, press the minus sign. Oh, so it shows you what all the stats mean on this screen right here. On the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you see my character profile. To the right of that is the experience level. That's what this is. Let's see. Buffs and debuffs. To lead is to stand alone. Is that Denim's? Is that Denim Is that Denim Jeans' slogan here? Underneath the character profile, it says attack turn display. So we're attacking first, I guess. Units recovery time, 0. Well, it's my turn, so obviously, whatever. A lot of this will make more sense as we go along. Health points. Magic points. They accumulate slowly over the course of the battle, okay. Elemental affinity, again I chose air, because like I said, I chose Chitara, the air goddess. Okay, first of all, why is the anthropomorphic cat an air goddess? I guess she's like the wind. Like the Castlevania song. Melee accuracy modifier, terrain effect modifier, affects accuracy when attacking and avoids when defending. So I'm 35 on this kind of ground. So the ground you're standing on determines your attack and defensive capability. Like if you're in sand or if you're in water or in snow, I guess. Ranged accuracy modifier, terrain effect on ranged attacks. But again, the problem that a lot of people had with the original version of this game was that the archers were overpowered. Because apparently the way combat works in this game is that every time you attack, every time you attack with a melee strike, the person you're targeting gets a counterattack on that exact same turn. So you strike them, they immediately strike back. So if you have archers, you can whittle enemies down and they can't counterattack, usually. So we'll get to that more later in the game to see if it becomes a factor. Let's see. Here it is. See on the far right side of the screen there on the bottom? It says road. I'm standing on a road, so those are the accuracy modifiers for melee and archery. Again, it might not matter that much, but again, back in the day, in 1996, 97, this was a big deal. A lot of games did not emphasize stuff like this. Even Final Fantasy Tactics didn't emphasize a lot of stuff like this. That game had other weird mechanics, though. Like, they had a Zodiac calendar system, which we're not going to talk about till later. I have videos where I play Final Fantasy Tactics, where I explain how some of these mechanics seem kind of overbearing, because they don't seem to matter that much in combat. But it's worth noting that there are lots of factors involved in... before you actually can do damage to an enemy, a lot of modifiers and buffs and debuffs are applied before you actually perform an action. So just keep that in mind. It's one of those games. Just so you know. Can I press L and R down here? No. But if you check out the bottom of the screen, you can see all the characters and whose turn it is. Let's see. So if you press L or R, I can switch to all the other players to see who goes next. The second player in line is Vice. He's a guest character, so I think the AI is going to control him. Third character is Warren here. And he has a backstory at the top of the screen. So you get to kind of sample his abilities, right? Yeah, you can see his statistics too. So if you really want to commit, you can see what everyone's statistics are when you first start a fight. Again, it's one of those games. If you want to go deep into every individual unit to try to find favorable matchups, you can do that. You might not have to, but it won't hurt. Because a lot of people, like in their late teens, early 20s, started paying more attention to Japanese RPGs that had this level of information presented to you before you swung a sword. But if you just want to play the game like Final Fantasy Tactics, we can try playing it that way too. So who goes next? This guy. Now I don't have any ranged attackers, so I'll just kind of slip around the back. First of all, what's our objective here? Was that ever determined? Are we supposed to run, or are we supposed to kill these guys? Well, we'll just run and hide for now, see what happens. And we'll end the turn. And remember, as in Final Fantasy Tactics, the direction you're facing determines your ability to dodge attacks and absorb damage. If an enemy hits you from behind, they'll do maximum damage. If they flank you, they can probably do a little bit of damage. If they attack you head on, you have a higher chance of blocking the attack or dodging it. Yeah, this part wasn't in the original Super NES game, I believe. So there's a lot of AI control over the secondary characters in this part of the game.
俺たちはウォルスタ解放軍の戦士だ。みんなの仇を取らせてもらう。
仇だと。
随分と手荒な歓迎だな。なんだ、ガキじゃねえか。
待て。我らを知っているのか。人違いではないのか。
お前はランスロットだろうが。なら確かに俺たちの仇だ。
いかにも私の名はランスロットだ。なぜ私を知っている。
1年前にこの町を焼き払い住人を殺したのはお前たち暗黒騎士団だ。
See what I mean when I say the dialogue is kind of extra? They lay it on kind of heavy in this game.
暗黒騎士団だと。我々は東の王国ゼノビアからやってきたものだ。
そういえば暗黒騎士ランスロットは固めのはず。あなたは違うわ。
固めの暗黒騎士。どうやら同じ名前のせいで間違えられたらしいな。
俺たちは傭兵の仕事を求めてこの島にやってきた。
私の名はランスロット・ハミルトン。ゼノビア王国の聖騎士だ。
俺はカノープス、風使いと呼ばれている。そっちのじいさんは
Yeah, it's the flying Cobra soldier from Cobra Law in the G.I. Joe movie. I forgot his name.
私はウォーレン・ムーン、先生術師でございます。
Yeah, the Nemesis Enforcer. He was the Nemesis Enforcer from G.I. Joe.
私はミルディン・ウォルホーン。同じくゼノビアの騎士です。
俺の名はギルダス。そんなに怖い顔しないでくれ。
そんな違うなんて。なら俺は一体。
騎士様、謝罪いたします。そしてどうか私たちに力をお貸しください。
詳しい事情を聞かせてもらおう。我らとてこの地は初めてなのだ。
俺はバイス。仇があんたたちじゃなくて残念だ。
私はカチュア、僧侶です。そしてこっちは弟のデニム。
Let's just say you have to forgive our error.
僕の名前はデニム。どうか僕らをお許しください。
Denim, like the gene. Denim.
気にする必要はない。驚きはしたがな。ここは暑い。さあ、どこか別の場所へ移り、そこで話を聞かせてくれないかな。
では私たちの隠れ家へ行きましょう。何のもてなしもできませんが。ガルガスタンの勢力に立ち向かうにはそもそも頭数が足りないのです。それは私たちウォルスタも一緒だけど、バクラムはその弱点を補うためにローディスと手を結びました。
そうして本国から派遣されたのが暗黒騎士団ロスローリアンってわけか。
ロスローリアンはローディスの君主サルディアン教皇直属の近衛騎士団。
That's part of the Warren report, in case you're wondering.
16ある騎士団の中では最強と言われ、教皇の信頼も厚いとか。
Hence his name, Warren. So I guess he does intelligence too.
しかし彼らの実務は隣国の情報収集であったり秘密工作といった公にはできない任務ばかり。暗黒騎士団とはそうした闇の諜報活動からついた名なのです。
しかしなんだってそのロスなんとかがバクラムに肩入れするんだ。
じゃああんたたちはどうしてこの島へやってきたんだ？
So why are you come to our isles? I don't know if that's flavor text. I don't know if they're trying to like add a little bit of vim and vigor to the dialogue, or if it's just a poorly grammatically incorrect, but whatever.
この島をバレリアをゼノビアのものにしたいからじゃないのか？ローディスもゼノビアもこの島で戦争を、代理戦争を俺たちにさせようってことじゃないのか？
やめなさいバイス、言い過ぎよ。
事情は分かった。バイス君、君の質問に答えよう。我々は確かにゼノビアの人間だ。しかし今は王国の騎士ではない。我々は追放されたんだ。
俺たちは罪人なのさ。もう帰るふるさとはないんだ。
だから俺たちは仕事を探している。この腕を高く買ってくれる仕事をな。
そんな話信じられるもんか？これは俺たちの戦いなんだ。
おやしなさいバイス、もういいわ。騎士様、ご無礼の段、何卒ご容赦くださいませ。
I mean, I do like the idea of having the radio drama over this Sakamoto soundtrack, so I can approve of that at least. It's one thing Final Fantasy Tactics never really had.
せんなきこと。それより君たちはこれからどうするつもりだ？
At least not yet. If Fire Emblem is as popular as I think it is, and this game does well, they're probably going to remake Final Fantasy Tactics sooner rather than later.
アルモリカ城に囚われたロンウェイ公爵を助けなければ。
That game would need a massive rebalancing, in case you're wondering. It's just too easy to like grind up some really overpowered characters and just burn through the story mode. Monks are OP, trust me.
ロンウェイ公爵とは君たちのリーダーか？
そうだ、俺たちウォルスタ人全員のリーダーだ。ガルガスタンの連中に捕まってる。処刑が近いって噂なんだ。なんとかしなくちゃいけない。
助ければいい金になりそうだな。どうだランスロット、やらねえか？
悪かったよ。確かに俺たちだけじゃ無理だ。あんたたちの力が必要だ。
そうと決まれば善は急げだ。アルモリカ城へ行こうぜ。
ちょっと待って、城には兵が大勢いるわ。
Did the game get a remaster? Get an audio remaster for the PlayStation? I'll pull out my version. I want to see if they redid the music, because obviously the PlayStation 1 version kept most of the music from the Super NES. I can double check, because I don't remember them really, except for a few songs. They didn't do a massive overhaul of the soundtrack, just for like 4 or 5 songs they did.
私たち、いえ、騎士様にだって勝てないわ。無理よ、死んじゃうわ。戦いはもうたくさんよ。
デニム君、君はどうなんだ？君の意見を聞かせてくれ。
I would.
僕らだけでは無理です。ぜひとも力をお貸しください。
よし、決まったな。では準備に取り掛かるとしよう。
どうして姉さんの言うことが聞けないの？言いたいことはわかるわ。でも私はあなたを失いたくないのよ。考えたくないけど父さんはきっと死んでいるわ。私にはあなたしかいないの。そう、この世に血を分けた肉親はあなただけ。たった2人しかいない兄弟なのよ。死なせたくない。ごめんね。あなたを止められるわけないのに。でも約束して、姉さんから離れないってね。
姉さん。
何やってんだ。みんな待ってるぞ。あんまり弟を甘やかすなよ。あいつだって男なんだ。
少し黙っていて。弟はあなたみたいに血の好きな男じゃないのよ。
戦いたくて戦ってるんじゃねえや。犬死にしたくないだけだぜ、俺は。
I believe Magneto said that in the X-Men animated series. Better to live on our feet than die on our knees.
あの人たちを当てにしてるくせに偉そうな口を聞かないで。
あいつらをここへ入れたのはカチュアじゃないか。何を今さら。
利用できそうだからおべっかを使ってるんじゃない。あなたみたいに我を通すだけの能なしじゃないの。少しは感謝なさいよ。
僧侶のくせに人を騙してもいいのかよ。やってらんねえぜ。
私はもう誰にも死んでほしくないだけよ。
Well, I do like the character profiles. It does suck that they don't change the profile based on the character's mood. Looks like it's just one profile for the entire game. They don't vary the profile based on the mood. Even Valkyrie Profile did that, and they didn't do a lot of. They didn't have a lot of character art in that game. Maybe three or four pictures per character. I want to say. But the music is very good so far, so there's a very good chance I'll end up buying this game at some point. Even though I already own the PlayStation Portable. I gotta pull it out. I got it around here somewhere. I got a lot of PlayStation Portable games. I haven't done any port. I did a few. I did a few Valkyrie Profile length videos, and the audio got borked, so I gotta redo them. Or if you want to hear me with my blown out audio, you can. I'll probably create a special playlist just for those. With the party command and manager use equipment. We're going to try and look at a fight before we end this video, because I can go 2 hours before we start the first fight. I'm not going to make you sit through that much. But what I will do is I'll create a manual game save, and then we'll see if we can skip ahead to some of this stuff. Skip ahead to the actual fighting. I want to give you at least a taste of how the combat works in this game. But I'm going to have to create about 3 or 4 more videos before I start getting into a more serious look at how the game plays. Because the game has a bit of a wind-up, as I'm sure you can imagine. If you like turn-based strategy games, this is one of the games you should have played by now. I'm not saying it's the next Crusader Kings or anything, but it's probably in the Fire Emblem era. It's probably in the Fire Emblem tier if you're into those games. I do own the Wii game for Fire Emblem around here somewhere. I have my stack of Wii games over there somewhere. I'll pull them out later. Because I have that and Metroid Prime Trilogy. So those are the most expensive games I still have in my collection right now. I sold most of the other ones. Like I said, the flavor text in this game is very good. It's way more literate than your average RPG was at the time it got released on the PlayStation. In America, they didn't invest a lot of energy in that stuff. But as you might know, the PlayStation 1 era was the era of the Jeremy Blaustein localizations. You know, your Metal Gear Solid, your Vagrant Stories, your Final Fantasy Tactics, your Valkyrie profiles, of course. So if you wanted, I mean, let's ignore Final Fantasy VII for a second. If you ignore Final Fantasy VII, you ignore the stench, a lot of that kind of wafted over the industry. If you ignore working designs and some of their alterations, let's be honest. Jeremy Blaustein did a bunch of localization updates to the games he made on the Sony, on the PlayStation, but they were very good. They were very good localizations in the sense that they were extremely well written. And that has to be mentioned because before that, you never knew what you were getting from Japan when they got translated to English back then. So in the PlayStation era, the game done changed, and it got a lot better after that. So if you care about good writing in video games, you gotta pay attention to the localizations we got on the PlayStation, despite the changes and alterations that were obviously made. They were way more literate than they were in the cartridge era. Even the CD-ROM era back then. On the Sega CD and the TurboGrafx CDs. Way more literate than those games were. Sorry, I need to save the game. So we're gonna make our Ground Zero save. And now we can kind of mess around and have some fun. So I'll tell you what, we'll try to skip through some of the storytelling here, and then here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do sort of a flash forward to kind of skip ahead to a battle, and then in my next video, I'll rewind to this game save so you can kind of see the story play out. But I didn't want to make you sit through an hour's worth of storytelling and not see the actual combat. It would seem weird, even for a game like this. Yeah. Strongholds made up of battlefields must be fought back to back. You can save your progress before beginning the next battle, however, you cannot leave the stronghold until the series of battles is completed. Use separate slave slots within a stronghold. Yeah, sure. Yeah, that makes sense. So we're not going to fight them just yet. Can I back out? I probably can't back out. First of all, I always liked that every area in this game seems to have a backstory too. Like, that's how this game does world building. Every node on a map and every character in your party has a backstory, which is kind of interesting. Even Final Fantasy IV, I think, did a bit of that. Final Fantasy VI, I think, relegated that stuff to the manual mostly. But it's the kind of feature I like to see. I guess I can just go backwards. I want to back out a bit, because I know there's supposed to be some training you can do with your characters. Because that was a big part of the... I want to say that was a big part of the PlayStation game. Well, the original game, was that you had to fight your own characters in these little skirmishes, so you could, like, level them up that way, so that they would be ready for the fights that are coming up. Again, the kind of thing people would have done in the mid-90s, probably not the kind of thing people would waste their time doing these days. Even in the free-to-play era of grinding for stuff, I don't think people would want to grind out skirmishes like that. Fighting your own party members, like throwing rocks at your own party members for 5 hours the way I did when I was playing Final Fantasy Tactics. I would grind up my characters for hours on the weekend, throwing rocks and hitting them with magic spells just so I could level them up. That kind of thing. I did videos of that for Final Fantasy Tactics. It's wild. How can I load? We're not going to autosave. Actually, I think it already autosaved. So how do we fight ourselves? We're going to have to do a tutorial of all this stuff later. And here's the Warren report. Timeline of my accomplishments. Oh, so I get to play it again. Okay, okay. Can I skip it? Yeah, we can skip it. Okay, so I can play back all the storytelling parts. That's actually a nice feature. Yeah, I like that. But I can't replay this fight, I don't think. And then there's the actual combat. We can't replay this. Okay, that's cute. So we can't replay that. We can replay that. Okay, so that's a nice feature. Tidings. So some of the stuff we can play and some of it we can't. Okay. Talk. Lore. This is the codex, kids. Hope you appreciate that. People. 19, 18, 18. So, NES on. So there's Nezuko, I guess. Play guide. Detailed help is nice. So we'll go through all that later. Play guide extras. Some events can only be seen from the report. In fact, reading from some reveal new locations on the world map. Oh, okay. I'll consider that, I guess. I wanted to at least get into a fight, but I guess I'm not allowed to do that yet, am I? So I'm not allowed to fight my own party members yet? We'll get around to that later, I suppose. Maybe we don't have to do that stuff as much anymore. So let me do an audio check before I end this video. Yep. M-A-M-C. Tactics Ogre Reborn, or whatever, part 1. We'll come back to this.